Hello. So I'm contemplating a name change again for the channel name. Just a few things to say about this. I mean, I guess it's a little weird, and I don't like changing names all the time, but I found some structural problems with the current name that I have. So, last time you recall, I changed the name because I wanted something that describes, more so the content, the positive content of the channel rather than the other content that I decry. This time, the problem is more specific. The name Theoretical Artist sounds a lot more like a title than a name. It's very sort of impersonal. And that's overall the main problem of it, right? It's kind of like, calling yourself Doctor or Physics, or Physicist. It's just like, and not even like the Doctor. I mean, if you call yourself the Doctor, that's more sort of resounding, but it's just like, just physics. Calling yourself physics doesn't make any sense. That's a subject, not, an individual. And there is, I mean, the channel here is much more on an individual level. Even if the idea, the theoretical artist is something that's very sort of specific itself, even if nobody else is doing that particular thing, it's still a subject. It's still a title. Anyone could be a theoretical artist, theoretically, right? Anyone could do that thing. Anyone could be that. I mean, anyone could be an artist. Everyone is an artist. And, perhaps not everyone, wants to be or is a theoretical one, but everyone could be. So it's a little weird as a name. It's too on the nose. That's sort of the complaint I've gotten, is just it's too on the nose. It's too like, it's like hitting you with a hammer. It's just like, this is what this is. There's no, there's nothing personal about it, There's nothing, there's nothing about it that's, it's not that there's nothing unique about it, there's just nothing personal about it. There's nothing individualistic about it. It doesn't say anything about the individual. It doesn't say anything about me. It just says theoretical artist. It's my title. It's not, my name, And it sort of begs the question, of like, what's in a name? What's in a name? And I have a whole bunch of complaints about the way people usually, like, name themselves and name things, especially in like, Steam and stuff. Like, any name that has numbers in it is a problem. Name that isn't capitalized is a problem. These are just like, if your name has numbers in it, then you're just like, you're not an individual. You're just, a drone, a Borg drone, number 314 or whatever. If you have, capitals, you're lazy. If your name is just like the name of some other famous person, like I've seen, I've online, sometimes a person just names himself like Heisenberg or Walter White. It's like, oh boy, that's creative. Your name is just the name of another person, another character. That's just plagiarism. It's literally, you didn't like creatively come up with anything. You just plagiarized somebody else's idea, and just called yourself that. It's like, that's not you as an individual, right? So, that has a problem. So, I mean, a name has to be something more personal than, the name of a subject, and it's got to be less lazy and less, less dull, less lazy, less uncreative. So, I mean, I think what my plan would be to use, the name that I use online, which is Mr. Creamy, which might sound silly, and it might sound like, it's kind of weird, because there's a whole fucking branding issue now. I'm just trying to say, it's like, the content of the channel isn't going to change at all. It's just the branding of it. It's the form, not the substance. And boy lord, my whole channel is substance over form. At least it's just to be substance over form. But this is like a particular. But the problem is form and substance are not independent. There's a point where form and substance are actually sort of intertwined, and the name is, the place basically. The name has the form. It has form. But it's also supposed to sort of directly relate to the substance. So you can't have a name that's irrelevant. You can't have a name that doesn't do anything. and is not related, and you can't have a name that isn't personal. So, you know, all that put together. Now, you might ask, so Mr. Creamy, what the fuck? That has nothing to do with anything, you know? That's not... Why is that... What the fuck does that name have to do with, you know, the content? It doesn't really have anything to do with the content. That's the weakness of this name. Another name I thought of is perhaps, instead of Mr. Creamy, Mr. Theory. Mr. Theory? That's also kind of gay. I mean, I don't know. It's just like... I'm so fucking, like, autistic and retarded and just awkward when it comes to this type of, like, form over substance kind of stuff. So, I mean, this one, I don't even know. I would choose one of those two. I think they work the best. Mr. Theory is much more content-specific, but it might also be too on the nose. And Mr. Creamy actually has some advantages other than that. For one, it's a name I use all the time online, most of the time. And it doesn't have anything specifically to do with the subject, but it is more personal, and it does sort of beg some kind of question. You know, it is kind of intriguing. Like, why is that your name? Like, why Mr. Creamy? Why creamy? Why is that the term? It's just like, it asks all these questions. It's kind of, it's perplexing. People's like, ooh, Mr. Creamy, what's this guy about? Is he all, what is he? Is he creamy? You know, it's like it asks, it sort of begs questions. It's an intriguing name. So it's got that advantage. The disadvantage that it has is the fact that there's actually another YouTuber who calls himself McCreamy. Not Mr., but his name, McCreamy. Which is, this might sort of be seen as some kind of copycatting. But it's not, because I've actually had the name Mr. Creamy for a long time on Steam. So I don't know, I don't think that it's related. If anything, this fucker is copying me. Although, if anything, I think he's just copying McCree from Overwatch. So, I mean, I don't know. There's problems, right? So, I mean, anyone who watches, if you have, you know, weigh in with your 2 cents. Mr. Theory or Mr. Creamy, and which one's better. I don't want something that's impersonal anymore. Granted, but the word theoretical artist isn't going away, because that's still going to be my Twitch name and my Twitch handle, and so it's still going to be part of, you know, my identity, because I want that to be part of the identity of the channel for sure. It's definitely part of the identity of the channel, and since the channel's linked with the Twitch thing, it's, you know, it's part of the identity. So I don't think I'm losing that out on that, but that's, you know, that's more of a title. That's more of a station, you know, a position, or a craft. You know, it's more of, you know, what I do, not who I am, I guess. And I don't know, I've been sort of pushing this idea that, like, I am what I do, but I don't know, there's still a difference between those two things, you know. The craft and the individual are separate. You know, the craft is greater than the individual in a sense. And I can't, you know, I can't name myself that way. Like, I've been thinking, it's just like, if I'm in a talk, and I'm in a talk with Mike or whatever, and I'm just like, well, what do people call me? Like, oh, I'm here with the theoretical artist. Do you say the theoretical artist? Mr. Theoretical Artist? You know, I'm here with theoretical artist. It's just weird, you know, it just sounds awkward. Like, what, it's like, I'm here with physicist. You know, I'm here with author. You know, I'm here with electrician. You know, it's just like, it's just, it's strange. It's very strange. At least maybe if it was like electrician or some like one word, it would be better. But the fact that it's 2 words as well is it's kind of, I'm here with, you know, the fact that there's 2 words sort of suggests that you should use a the or a Mr. I don't know. See, this is the problem. I'm just having like, I'm just super like skeptical of the name at this point. And I hate doing shit like this because I hate changing. I hate going back on a decision I made earlier. I hate going back on a decision I made earlier and changing my mind. I hate the fact when looking back on my old videos. I mean, I still... That's not as bad. I mean, those old videos, they still have... a lot of the ideas I had still carry over and exist today. I haven't really renounced them. I may have renounced some of the methods, but getting off topic. The point is, you know, Mr. Creamy. You know, it's like Mr. White or something from Reservoir Dogs. You know, it's much cooler. It's much more thematic, I guess. So, I mean, Mr. Creamy or Mr. Theory or something along Mr. Artist. No, that sounds stupid. The problem with artist is that the word artist is just too on the nose. It's just too like, oh, I see what you're trying to be. You know, it's just kind of, you know, like, I see what you're trying to do. It's too vulnerable. It exposes too much information. You know, with sort of very little behind it, and and even if there was substance behind it, it would be like, it still wouldn't be personal. So it still would have nothing to do with, you know, me. Mr. Creamy's more of a specific thing, you know. It's much more personal. So, I mean, yeah, this is my, you know, thoughts, as always. Let me know, etc. Cheers. I'll see when I change it, if I do.